history of Crusades. The Crusades were a series of religious wars between Christians and Muslims started primarily to secure control of holy sites considered sacred by both groups. In all, 8 major crusade expeditions occurred between 1096 and 1291. The bloody, violent and often ruthless conflicts propelled the status of European Christians, making them major players in the fight for land in the Middle East. What were the Crusades? By the end of the 11th century, Western Europe had emerged as a significant power in its own right, though it still lagged behind other Mediterranean civilizations, such as that of the Byzantine Empire and the Islamic Empire of the Middle East and North Africa. After years of chaos and civil war, the general Alexius Comnenus seized the Byzantine throne in 1081 and consolidated control over the remaining empire as Emperor Alexius I. In 1095, Alexius sent envoys to Pope Urban II asking for mercenary troops from the west to help confront the Turkish threat. In November 1095, at the Council of Clermont in southern France, the Pope called on Western Christians to take up arms to aid the Byzantines and recapture the Holy Land from Muslim control. First Crusade, 1096 to 1099. 4 armies of crusaders were formed from troops of different Western European regions, led by Raymond of St. Gilles, Godfrey of Bouillon, Hugh of Vermandois and Bohemond of Taranto. These groups departed for Byzantium in August 1096. In the first major clash between the Crusaders and Muslims, Turkish forces crushed the invading Europeans at Sibatis. Another group of crusaders, led by the notorious Count Imicho, carried out a series of massacres of Jews in various towns in the Rhineland in 1096 and causing a major crisis in Jewish-Christian relations. In May 1097, the Crusaders and their Byzantine allies attacked Nicaea, now Iznik, Turkey, the Seljuk capital in Anatolia. The city surrendered in late June. Fall of Jerusalem. Despite deteriorating relations between the Crusaders and Byzantine leaders, the combined force continued its march through Anatolia, capturing the great Syrian city of Antioch in June 1098. After various internal struggles over control of Antioch, the Crusaders began their march toward Jerusalem, then occupied by Egyptian Fatimids. Encamping before Jerusalem in June 1099, the Christians forced the besieged city's governor to surrender by mid-July. Second Crusade, 1147–49. In 1144, the Seljuk general Zangi, governor of Mosul, captured Edessa, leading to the loss of the northernmost Crusader state. News of Edessa's fall stunned Europe and caused Christian authorities in the West to call for another crusade. Led by 2 great rulers, King Louis VII of France and King Conrad III of Germany, the Second Crusade began in 1147. After Louis and Conrad managed to assemble their armies at Jerusalem, they decided to attack the Syrian stronghold of Damascus with an army of some 50,000. Damascus ruler was forced to call on Nur al-Din, Zangi's successor in Mosul, for aid. The combined Muslim forces dealt a humiliating defeat to the Crusaders, decisively ending the Second Crusade. Third Crusade, 1187–92. After numerous attempts by the Crusaders of Jerusalem to capture Egypt, Nur al-Din's forces seized Cairo in 1169 and forced the Crusader army to evacuate. In 1187, Saladin began a major campaign against the Crusader kingdom of Jerusalem. His troops virtually destroyed the Christian army at the Battle of Hattin. Outrage over these defeats inspired the Third Crusade, led by rulers such as the aging Emperor Frederick Barbarossa. In September 1191, Richard's forces defeated those of Saladin in the Battle of Asyuf. In September 1192, Richard and Saladin signed a peace treaty that re-established the Kingdom of Jerusalem and ended the Third Crusade. Fourth Crusade, the fall of Constantinople. Though Pope Innocent III called for a new crusade in 1198, the new emperor's attempts to submit the Byzantine Church to Rome was met with stiff resistance, and Alexius IV was strangled after a palace coup in early 1204. In response, The Crusaders declared war on Constantinople, and the Fourth Crusade ended with the devastating fall of Constantinople. Final Crusades, 1208 to 1271. Throughout the remainder of the 13th century, a variety of crusades aimed not so much to topple Muslim forces in the Holy Land but to combat any and all of those seen as enemies of the Christian faith. In the Fifth Crusade, put in motion by Pope Innocent III before his death in 1216, the Crusaders attacked Egypt from both land and sea but were forced to surrender to Muslim defenders led by Saladin's nephew, Al-Malik al-Kamil, in 1221. In 1229, in what became known as the Sixth Crusade, Emperor Frederick II achieved the peaceful transfer of Jerusalem to Crusader control through negotiation with Al-Kamil. The peace treaty expired a decade later, and Muslims easily regained control of Jerusalem. From 1248 to 1254, Louis IX of France organized a crusade against Egypt. This battle, known as the Seventh Crusade, was a failure for Louis. The Mamelukes. As the Crusaders struggled, a new dynasty, known as the Mamelukes, descended from former slaves of the Islamic Empire, took power in Egypt. Under the ruthless Sultan Baybars, the Mamelukes demolished Antioch in 1268. In response, Louis organized the Eighth Crusade in 1270. Edward I of England took on another expedition in 1271. This battle, which is often grouped with the Eighth Crusade but is sometimes referred to as the Ninth Crusade, the Crusade's end. In 1291, one of the only remaining Crusader cities, Acre, fell to the Muslim Mamelukes. Many historians believe this defeat marked the end of the Crusader states and the Crusades themselves. Effects of the Crusades. Crusades ultimately resulted in defeat for Europeans and a Muslim victory. Many argue that they successfully extended the reach of Christianity and Western civilization. The Roman Catholic Church experienced an increase in wealth, and the power of the Pope was elevated after the Crusades ended. Trade and transportation also improved throughout Europe as a result of the Crusades. Among followers of Islam, however, the Crusaders were regarded as immoral, bloody and savage. The ruthless and widespread massacre of Muslims, Jews and other non-Christians resulted in bitter resentments that persisted for many years. Thank you.